Well, those of you who have followed my channel, um, the know that I've had a daughter-in-law issue, and I'm also doing a website on ADD, ADHD, Asperger's, that whole family, because this illness is like everybody in my family has it. And when my children were younger, their lives, my son in particular, that is married to this daughter-in-law, knows it worked perfectly up until he turned 16, well, around the age of 16, um, during a really abusive divorce. And an event happened, which I will talk about it um, in other videos. Mostly, anyways, at that particular instance, he stopped using these techniques that end up solving problems for him. So right now, from that time on, he's had problem after problem after problem. And my problems, are how the hell do you react to everybody else's problems? My ex was extremely abusive. There was no leaving that guy because that guy just would not go away. And his main issue is he didn't want to pay his child support. So in order for him not to pay his child support, he had to encourage the kids to be violent, and believe in lies about me, which is really, really painful, which is my issue. Now, as the observer of what all was going on, it's like I can really understand where my son was coming from. I know exactly where his experiences were because I'm the parent, looking in from outside, and I seen this kid change because of a lot of things that were done to him. And so now he's basically married somebody that's identical to his stepmother, somebody he didn't really like, but they are identical. And she's got some issues, major issues. And I haven't talked to my son. I live in the same freaking town, never see him. And I find that is totally unacceptable. And why is it I'm not talking with my son now? Because of lies again that are told to my son, and my son loves his wife. So whose side he's going to take? The mother side, that he forgets everything that I have done from the time that before 16, or all of the lies, because this kid is living in a ton of lies. That has to be painful for him. He once told me, you can't miss something you never had. And he used that statement towards his father, because his father was always yelling at him and never showed him love. So I've always tried to give him double the love because of the amount of verbal emotional abuse that he suffered from his father. So anyways, clearly my family needs counseling. Nobody wants to go, well, I can't say nobody. My other son has paid over $800 so that I could get into counseling with this child, but he refused. About 6 months ago, a show offered to pay my son $7,000 to be on a show where they will do free counseling, but they said no, and under the condition that they would get their own counseling and they would take it more seriously. Well, it's over 6 months, and as all of the other promises my daughter-in-law has made, she breaks her promises all of the time, which I have an issue with. So I gather that what she really wants, because I've told her I want my family healed, and I'm going to talk about these issues. Now, if you want this public, we'll talk public. If you want it private, let's go private. I prefer private, but I'm talking this out, and it's the only way that I know my son will receive information one way or another if it goes public. Private, there's no talking to him. He's shut off. He's completely, this is an ADHD thing. Like they completely shut off and will not receive any information. So they've got to be willing to receive information. So doing YouTube and going public with every single thing I've experienced will cause enough irritation that, like they did, told me, made the promise before that they would get counseling if I stopped talking. So it's like, okay, now it's time to increase the talking, because clearly every time I show respect, it's disrespected because I stopped talking for 6 months out of respect. But they didn't show me that respect back, and that's kind of a typical thing, which is what I've got an issue with. So, and how it unfolds, you have to pretty much see what the bigger plan is. That sure, it will be irritating right now. Sure, they'll be really, really pissed off having their whole lives be so public. I understand that. And that would be a reason why they wouldn't want to talk to me. Fully understand that. The point is that their behaviors, they won't be able to deny, and the more people know about it in their own community and question it, and they have no response to, is this really true? That part will be the stage where they're going to have to face a few issues, because it basically, they received information from other people. So in order for them to make a shift, they're going to have to receive that information from other people as well. Since they are not able to do it one-on-one, it's got to be done through society. So, and we're talking about violence that I'm sure that nobody wants talked about. These are these family secrets that it's just healthier for everybody to keep it quiet, because you don't want your kids, or you don't want to upset family members. But it's like, I ain't got no family members. Nobody's talking. So I got nothing to lose. I have everything to gain, because if I just relate my experience and give the explanation as to what causes it and how the possibilities of healing it, if this experience that I went through ends up helping out other people, then at least it's a win for me. And a win, because some of these family secrets need to be out. And a lot of people, I wish somebody would have shared this information with me so I knew it, so I wouldn't have gone through this when my child turned 60. I would have been able to avoid all of the emotional abuse all of my kids had from the time they were born with my ex. I would have been able to stop all of that if what I know now I knew back then. So, I mean, family either is either I have family or I don't have family, and I am perfectly supportive of, if they grow up, have their own lives, and don't want to participate with family, that's okay with me. I support you. I have always supported my kids in whatever direction they want to go into. I'm moving on with my life, and I'm going to take everything that happened with me and do something positive with the experience. But you can only talk about what you know when it involves other people, because I didn't gain this knowledge in a vacuum where there were no other people. And so that's where I'm at right now, is probably do a lot more talking, about my daughter-in-law and her family histories and look at where things started and how these patterns are repeated. Um, I have both my grandparents' sides, my parents' side, my family relationship with my ex, his family side, my kids, both sides of their grandparents, now my kids and their experience and how these patterns are being repeated. And it is very important to see who they marry and what their family background is like so that we can see the comparisons of the patterns that are going on. I think that this is truly a remarkable experience to share because there's so many patterns that are identical. And when you can see all of the patterns as clearly as I do, you can predict what will happen next. And everything is causal. All illnesses are causal. And one thing I would love my daughter-in-law to know is look up autism, because look at the genetics from most kids that have autism. They do suffer from ADHD or ADD. They do have those illnesses, which both these parents, my son and his wife, are they got it bad. And if they have children, it's going to intensify. That's what the genetics does, is whatever was going on in your parents, whatever they were susceptible to, then you are more susceptible. If my mother was sensitive, I will be more sensitive than she was. It's an intense, it heightens more with every generation that goes down the line. So their child will more than, they have a higher potential to have a child that's autistic. Now, I would just question if you want to live the way you're living and risk having an autistic child. I'm in supportive of that. I wouldn't want to give you advice to live any different way than what you are. Is you have to be the solution to your own problem. I am not your solution. But you don't have to have, you can completely wipe out that potential of having an autistic child by changing your DNA now, which is your thoughts, which is your behavior patterns, which is how you perceive your world. If you change that, you change how your child will react, because a lot of it is learned behavior, but it also comes from your genetics, and you can change your DNA, which is a lot of science. Bruce Lipton for one, Dr. Vernon Wolf for another. There's a lot of sciences that are looking at, yeah, you can change DNA. And one of the best examples of that is they've done tests with identical twins. They've taken their DNA and seen how similar it was when they're first born, and then checked their DNA after 50 years. Guess what? Their DNA is completely different. What happened in between the 50 years? Life experiences. So it is a matter of changing your experience, and then you change your DNA, and then you change your genetics of the potential causes. But if a child needs to overcome, because if you have an autistic child, in order to make that work, you have to change your ways then. So it's either change it before or change it after. It doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't matter to me, because this is your life. But at the same time, there is this little thing too that I'm pretty sure they're going to have my grandchildren, and they probably won't let me ever see my own grandchildren. What kind of son would do that? What kind of daughter-in-law would do that? To devote and do so much to this child, sacrificing everything for this child's happiness, understanding him, being supportive of him, for him to just exclude me and my own grandchildren's lives, which I'm pretty sure they would do if this problem's not fixed. But the beauty part of that is, as long as I go public, I communicate with my grandchild, and as long as they tell a child, you can't talk to your grandmother, guess what the child's going to do? They'll always do what your parent tells you not to do, especially when they're highly controlling and manipulative of what's going on. So I see myself as a win-win either way. Peace out.